I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Public Utilities Commission for Monday, October 5th, 2020. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. There's Paul's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's see, public input. We don't see any guests or visitors on today. Nothing in correspondence other than what was in the meeting packet. So I'll go to minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of September 21st, 2020.
I'll make the motion. We accept them.
Okay, motion by Paul, second by Rich. Any changes, comments? I didn't see anything in here that needed any revisions, so I'll try your minds. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. I think we have
Abstain.
abstain. Yeah. Okay, that motion carries. Moving on to financials. I'll make a motion that we approve the financial statement that was in the packet dated October 5th, 2020, in the amount of two invoices, one from Earth Movers and one from Weston and Sampson, in the amount of $44,569.45. There's a
Just
second.
by Michelle and you.
Second by Rich. Okay, I'll give you a minute to look that over, and if there's any questions, Tom is here with us today, as always.
Yeah, I have a question, Matt.
Yeah.
It's not related to the invoice, but I don't know if you want to talk about it an hour later. Tom, is there, now with the invoices getting caught up, does it look like Earth Movers has any extra money to continue on that water main?
Rich, that's going to be a tough one. I'm going to say yes, but I'm not going to know until we get closer to the end, which unfortunately, is going to be probably, I'm going to have to get through the October bill to see how far they've gotten. I really can't commit to going further without knowing where we stand.
Okay.
We're going to have some savings on the temporary paving. So that tells me, yes, we're going to have money. But as far as how many feet further down the line can we go, it's going to sort of be towards the end to really be able to come up with that number.
Okay, all right.
All right, any other questions?
Nope.
All right, hearing none. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. So I'm going to close that window and move on to director's report.
Okay, couple items. We talked last time about, I was interested in still pursuing hydrant flushing. I think after our little discussion and talking about the drought and looking further at the drought numbers across Connecticut and what the map looks like for drought and moderate drought and extreme drought, I think we would be smart to just go ahead and wait till spring when everybody else in the state is kind of topped off. And it's probably more appropriate, especially if we don't know if this drought will go further into October, November. I think we'd be smart to just put it off the next few months and get us into early spring and do the hydrant flushing.
Is there any downside to that, Tom? I mean, technically?
Not really. It's a good idea to flush them, on an annual basis. If you don't get to it, I mean, we do have other situations in the system where we get a decent flow of water through there. Obviously, with the coronavirus, our demands have been up probably on the order of between 10 and 20%. So we've been getting more flow through the system anyway. So I don't see a real big downside, especially if we're only looking at going from October to maybe, April.
Okay.
I wanted to talk a little bit, and most of my other information will be when we get to capital projects, but I wanted to talk a little bit about our sewer related projects. We did our first, construction contract after studying the different sub areas. part of the design for that included another set of construction contracts for the next phase of construction, a phase 2. I've gone ahead and asked Weston Sampson to look into that for me. Like I said, we had an agreement with them to do a couple of contracts. The first one we've done already. If you recall, once we got started on that, and we were already studying sub-area 14, we decided to put some construction work from sub-area 14 into that contract. So in effect, we borrowed a little bit. We, the 9, 12, 15 work we were doing, we had them switch gears and add a little bit of 14 work. And that was that excessive infiltration on Plumtrees Road. So what I'd like to do is have them continue on and let's continue with the 9, 12, and 15. And I will need probably a little bit of an addendum from them since they did some design work from 14. I need a little bit extra to finish up 9, 12, and 15. They were looking at on the order of maybe about a $5,000 increase as to what we've already agreed to. And I think it's a good idea to just finish one sub area at a time. This would include some additional pipelining. If you recall, when they discussed it with us, the pipelining work was either to address excessive infiltration or for what we call preventative maintenance to repair some structural defects, cracks, and so on. So I would like to go ahead and well, I've asked them to go ahead and give me a something in writing on that, a proposal to finish up 9, 12, and 15. And if you recall, we also studied sub-area 14. And I would like to get a proposal from them on doing the next or the first sets of construction on that sub-area, just so that we have construction contract work in the hopper so that on an annual basis, we can continue to do some repairs. So I've asked them to get me something on that, and I'd like to present that at next meeting.
Okay.
Tom,
Yeah.
Tom,
Yes.
I understand with the drought, but have we seen any decrease in the flows down there at Maple Avenue with that repair?
Rich, I was hoping I would see something there specifically. You know what it is? The flows have still been higher than normal with everybody, at least initially, those first several months, everyone was home. So the flow numbers, I think, were kind of just thrown out askew. So I haven't seen a real strong, number where we've reduced it by X amount.
Okay.
We definitely repaired those sections of pipe, but, the infiltration can find other places to get in. So I don't have a definitive number that says, we reduced it by X amount.
Okay.
The other thing with the work we've been doing with Weston and Sampson, we went through the QBS process to select them as our engineer. We haven't really revisited that in a while. They've studied several sections of the system to this point. So what I did over the course of the last month was tried to get some data on where their rates compare with some of the other engineering firms in the state. And I got some numbers without specifically knowing which engineer was which, because I spoke with the DEP office staff people, and I talked with the DPH staff people, just to get some overhead and profit numbers from different engineers. So without them giving me the specific engineers, they gave me like engineer A, B, C, and what their overheads and profits were. Basically, I kind of cross-checked to see where our consultants are, Weston and Sampson, as well as Wright Pierce, and they're both in the mid-range for the overhead and profit numbers, as well as the overhead and the profit numbers for both of those. So I feel comfortable that we've selected both to do our work, and their rates are right in the middle of the ranges.
Marty, do you have a question?
Yeah, I've got two questions. The first one is in regards to when they finish each sub area for infiltration. I can't remember. Are they gonna test to see what it is, or what's been saved, or what's changed, or?
Yeah, what you do, Marty, is you kind of do a before and after, CCTV. So they've done that. So on the CCTV, and I think we showed, I think part of that was showed when Weston and Sampson did one of their presentations, but you saw the water pouring in at like almost every joint. So now they do a follow-up CCTV on the same line, and that shows it clean.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is we have all this infiltration and flow that's going to Danbury that we're paying for. I believe somebody at some point measured what it's been on the average. I think it should be done again to see whether or not all this work is paid off for anything, especially now that we're getting the TOD in downtown. I mean, they're going to be using sewer like there's no tomorrow. And I think we need to know whether or not, we've saved anything.
Yeah, I hear you. It's tricky as far as that goes, again, because the flow numbers are up, so it's hard to say section by section what the actual number is.
Well, can we at least consider that when they finish the initial ones with the sub areas they're working on, like if we've got 4 different, I forget how many sections we have.
Right.
They can run it again and, the overall and see what the difference is.
Yeah, I mean, that involved them setting up some metering at the before and after manholes. So that necessarily isn't included. That can be done again for sure. Yes.
Don, do they have an estimate based on what they saw?
They had an estimate, Matt, and again, the way they describe it is they can't pinpoint every gallon.
Yeah,
and
right.
When they do some repairs, the infiltration water that's trying to get into the system can find another way to get in. So it could get into laterals, it could get in further downstream.
Downstream, right.
I don't understand. I mean, the whole point of doing this was to try to save some of the use, to be quite honest with you. That's what I always thought it was. And the other thing is, you can speak to Bob, we pay by the gallons every year. Correct, Bob?
Correct.
So, I mean, if all of a sudden we've got a drop of, on an average over the last couple of years of 50,000 gallons a year or 100,000, at least we'll have an idea. But there should be some measurement.
I have annual summaries, Marty, of what we send from our 3 sections. So
okay.
I definitely have access to, 2016 numbers, 17, 18, I do have that. It doesn't give me specifically that section that they just lined. But yes, I have noticed we had a couple of wet years after the 2016 drought, and I did see our numbers, going up, and I now have seen them basically coming down. So I'll have to put something together for you, for the commission on some annual, numbers from the flow rates.
Yeah, I don't expect it to be done now. I'm just saying at some point we need to see some empirical data. I mean, otherwise we're wasting our time.
Yeah, well, we're not, because there are some basic defects in the pipes. Yeah. So lining those pipes is going to fix those defects. Cracks are going to tend to get bigger as time goes on. And, you have a structural defect in a pipe, eventually, you can get a collapse. And now you're looking at, some major problems. So, so it's the infiltration, it's also just the status and what kind of condition the pipes are in.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
Does Danbury provide daily or weekly or monthly flow numbers for the different zones? Can we do some comparison,
Well, it's our flow meters that we're giving them, the numbers. I think they may be tracking them as well.
Okay.
But yeah, we've got the 3 zones, Paul Street, Payne, and Berkshire. So like I said, I can pull together data. I mean, we've seen it along the way. I can put a table together that basically would have some of those numbers to see where we stand from one year to the next.
I could see us getting a comparison for the last 6 months on all of these different substations that are pumping to see if there's any reductions. I think that would be more meaningful.
Yep.
I know you can't do this overnight, but can we at least put it on the agenda saying that 2 months from now we can get some of that data?
Yeah, Paul, we can put together some summaries on our various pump stations.
Okay.
and
Kathy,
look at-
will you put that on the December agenda?
Okay.
Sure,
Okay, thank you.
I had one more question.
sure.
Also, Tom, I appreciate you getting that information regarding the engineering, the different engineering costs across the state. Because I was the one that complained to you, to the commission about. I just want to let you know, we just hired, or I should say the building committee, hired Austin and Sampson to do work at the high school, not the high school, at Rockwell School regarding some of the floors and some issues. The engineer that they have there, he's a specialist in the field. And I got to tell you something, he's given a flat hourly rate. There's nothing about profit. There's nothing about overhead, nothing at all.
Mhm.
So, you know, within their own company, they have different things. That's all I have to say.
I hear you. There's some structured forms that go along with all of these clean water fund and drinking water fund projects. So basically, the engineers put their estimates together and they follow those forms, and the states allow X amount. They allow up to, like, believe it or not, like an 18% profit margin on some of the engineering work. So, you know, you go from one engineer to the next, and you got different numbers on their overheads and their profits. And, you know, there's been a range, and I could say, though, that at least the two that we use, one on the water side, one on the sewer side, you know, they're not going to the max number, and they're in the mid-range. But I hear what you're saying as far as the other project with the Public Site and Building Committee. And, you know, I'm not sure what other programs they're working within or not.
No, this didn't have anything to do with water and sewer.
Right.
The floors.
The pavement.
Just
Rick?
one more question for me.
Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
Tom, have you received the final video camera of those lines that they worked on?
I haven't gone through them, Rich. You know, all those videos, but we have them, yes.
Oh, okay.
And
All
they've been
right.
looked at. They've been looked at by Weston and Sampson, yes.
All right, so they've completed pretty much all their contract that they were supposed to do for us.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay. Great. Anything else? Tom, if I think you're up next anyway. You want to cover the Bergstrom?
Sure. Yep, I'll start with Bergstrom. So I got the report, the long-awaited report from Wright Pierce. It was the preliminary engineering and pilot study report. Obviously, you guys have noticed it's 600 and some odd pages long. Marty, I'm sorry, I didn't want to leave you out, so don't feel obligated.
No.
There's probably 500 pages worth of addendum. So the meat and potatoes is probably the first 90 pages, which is their first sections. Maybe there's 9 sections there. I thought the best way to proceed was at least to get it in your hands. I thought if I had Wright Pierce Marius come down and give us a presentation on it, which I asked him to be at our next meeting. And I thought if I got it to everybody, you got at least a couple of weeks to look at it. I provided like a 2-page overview, and it's really information that I pulled right out of those different sections of the report. So I think if we had Wright Pierce here to present and answer questions, and then I thought the next thing to do would be to basically set up a site visit so we can see a plant in operation. Basically, we're in the position we're at because we basically needed more water. We found a great quantity source of water in the Bergstrom well. I don't think any of us were expecting to really have to treat it to the extent that we have to treat it, especially since the Maple wells are only maybe 3,000 feet away and they don't have the iron and manganese. But we do need to treat for the iron and manganese. It's not uncommon. There's a lot of New England sources, groundwater, as well as, more groundwater, but also surface that have to deal with iron and manganese. The report and my overview talk a little bit about what some of those requirements are. Iron is 0.3 milligrams per liter is the secondary standard we have to meet. The raw water from the well is about 1.5. On manganese, the secondary standard is 0.05 parts per million. And we have about almost 0.4 parts per million. So the technology is pretty proven. For the most part, systems that have high iron and manganese in their groundwater typically are using like a green sand filtration. So that's the system that was piloted. Membranes can be used. They're much more costly as far as energy. I don't think you get any further along with the membranes. The green sand might be more of an older school technology, but it's proven and it works. So the report has a lot of that information, what they were looking to look for in the pilot study. Some good things are that the green sand filters will remove the iron and manganese to very low levels. They piloted recycling the backwash water. So basically, once a filter reaches a head loss of about 10 psi, you got to backwash it. That spent the water that you're pushing through the filter backwards. Instead of wasting all of that, we are in a position we could recycle that, which is a good thing. We also analyzed the water for trihalomethane disinfection byproducts, trihalomethanes and haloacetic acids, and our numbers came out under the MCLs for that. And then the last piece of it was, of course, the sticker shock of what some of the costs are for the different alternatives. They did look at 4 different sites, where we possibly could site our treatment facility. The well is where it is. That's on plum trees behind the old police station in Ballfield, and they analyzed a few different alternative sites and how to get it into our system. So with all of that, there's the report, there's my overview, and I would say, I can answer some questions now if you have any. I would think we should probably, look it over well. If anyone has questions that they would like to get answered, it might be helpful to get them to me in advance. I could get all that forwarded to Marius, so at least he's prepared when we meet with him in 2 weeks to answer some of the specific questions. So that's Bergstrom, and I don't know if anybody has any comments on that at this point before I go forward with others.
I do, Tom.
Sure.
One of my biggest concerns is about the recycling and of the backwash, or if we have to put the backwash into the sewer system. I read something and I just quickly ran through they were talking about possibly 800 gallons a minute or something. Or, what is the amount of water if we have to dump the backwash into the city sewer system?
The backwash up for the 3 filters is going to be, I think he had it at like 27,000 gallons. So just round it and let's say it's 30,000 gallons a day. So we need a source of clean water that we can use to backwash the filters. So in effect, on the downstream side of the filters, we would have, and I think they were proposing a 40,000 gallon tank, which that would hold clean water for us. And that water would then be used as the source for the next day's backwash. So when it's time to, so on Monday, we refill that tank when the filters, go back online. That 40,000 gallons is waiting for us to use to backwash Tuesday's, backwash run. And then that spent water, that kind of dirty, quote unquote, dirty water after it goes backwards through the filter, gets pumped into another 40,000 gallon tank. Now, if you don't recycle, Rich, you've got to really dispose of all of that water. It's pretty commonplace that you can recycle up to about a 10% flow rate. So the idea would be, and we'll hear more from Marius on this, but the idea would be that backwash water we would recycle. If we're going to pump 400 gallons a minute, say, from the well through the filters, we can recycle that water back at a say a 40 gallon per minute rate. And when they piloted, they did that. They took the recycled water, they combined it with the raw water and put that back through the filter to see what the water quality would be like. And it was more than acceptable.
Okay, well,
That
my
makes
main concern is the amount of water that we need to get rid of on either systems that we ended up using, the recycler or get rid of all the backwash.
Well, again,
And again, our pumping system down there, is it going to handle it? And what is the cost to the town? Is that included in the yearly maintenance and operation?
no, I don't think he has the sewer expense in the yearly.
All right. That's something I would like to analyze also.
Yep. I mean, if you don't recycle it, you got to pump it. And then if you're going to pump it by a pumper truck or something, A, you got a lot of volume, and B, you're going to have a cost associated with that.
And will it result in needing an increase in headcount to operate the system?
Well, it runs, it's set up on an automatic backwash cycle. We're not anticipating adding more staff. We would add that to the rounds. So the guys would have to make a trip there probably daily to, to get some readings. I think as we get further into the design, Dino, we'll have to, really hone in on how many hours a day might be needed.
Yeah.
I'm a little, go ahead, Rich.
I was going to say, hopefully we're going to cut out the reservoir. So that manpower that goes to the reservoirs up on Chestnut might be used to oversee the other filter system.
Well, that's correct. And also, if the Bergstrom well's in service using electrical energy, then the Maple wells are in service using less electrical energy. So some of the power costs that you're normally now spending at the wells, you won't. In other words, if we're going to pump, say, 400 gallons a minute from Maple and 400 gallons a minute from Bergstrom, we're reducing the electrical usage at Maple. So I don't think that number was calculated either as a savings.
Okay.
But yeah, there'll be some manpower that you're not going to spend elsewhere that you're going to spend here.
And Dino, to your question, they spend about an hour up at Chestnut Ridge every day, and that's 7 days a week. So that meant, like you'd said, that may go back to work in that area.
Yeah, that might be the hour we spend at the Bergstrom facility.
Correct.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a little, I'll have to read further in the report because I'm a little confused how you filter material out, backwash it, and put it back into the system and everything is fine. It sounds like snake oil at the start.
It may, Dino, I can tell you our system in Norwalk recycled the backwash. Pretty much most facilities recycle the backwash. So what you do is Safe Drinking Water Act, I think, limited it to like no more than 12%. I think there's a number 12 or 15, maybe it's 10, but you can recycle at about 10%. So you're taking that and you let that water settle also. So by putting it in a tank, you're going to let some of the solids settle down to the bottom.
Okay.
You're going to recycle the cleaner backwash water, but it's not, it's not uncommon. It's pretty much done at most filter plants these days.
Okay.
All right, more questions for Tom on that? Anything else on
I
capital?
got a quick question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Is this a totally plant that's built on site, or is it like a prepackaged thing they have up to Eureka Reservoir?
It's kind of, I'm not exactly sure, Rich. I don't want to say. It's going to be a slab on grade building, no basement. The vendor, he's going to have his tankage and his piping and his valving. I don't think that all gets assembled elsewhere and gets dropped off. I think a contractor is going to take delivery and probably put the piping and the valving together. That's my guess. I would hold on to that question for Marius as to whether, because it would probably be just too big to be packaged up that way.
Okay.
All right, anything else on that, Tom, or any other capital stuff you wanted to cover?
Yeah, I'll touch on the other projects, but like I said, I'll just ask everyone, as you have other questions, as you look through the report, jot them down. You can email them to me. I'll gather up everybody's. I'll get them to Marius ahead of time. I think that'll make his presentation in 2 weeks. At least he can target those answers to those questions.
Mhm.
On other projects, The Chestnut tank, as I've indicated, the tank is constructed. Some of the electrical conduit has been installed now. The water main work actually started today. So they'll get going on that over the course of the next couple of weeks. So we do inch closer to getting that tank online. Some of the major items remaining are the electrical, instrumentation, site work, landscaping, and, and then we'll be getting to the end here. I would think, in the month of November. Hopefully we're online, by the first week in November at this point. I don't have an updated schedule, but that should be about where we're at.
Tom,
On
I got a
the-
question
Sure.
about this thing. I noticed there's some trees that came down in the storm and stuff. Can we get a price from the contractor to clean the site up there?
Are you talking on the tank site or on the driveway
Yeah.
leading up to it?
Well, that whole area there.
Yes. Yeah, Rich, I'll let me make a note of that and we'll definitely get that in the works. I'll get a price from him. It isn't necessary for him to complete his work.
Right.
It might be something where if we shop it out with our own local people, we may do better. But we'll at least ask him to get us a price on cleaning up some of that. I
Okay.
did make mention to him today as far as if you notice that old utility pole is still sitting there and some of that, I would want Eversource to be responsible to come back and clean up whatever the old pole, there's a cross arm and there's a couple of, items they could probably still clean up as well.
Well, there was some brush or tree branches or trees down by the retention pond that they had pushed off to the side there. So I don't know if that was still his responsibility or if it,
All right, we'll take a look at that. If he's left it right there near that detention basin, then it's probably something we can have him dress up.
Okay.
Tom, I'll make a note of it and talk to Buddy tomorrow about it.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. All right, that was Chestnut. The 2019 water mains, they're going to get started on the temporary main and the permanent main to follow on Oakland Heights actually this week. I've driven around. I've seen them doing the loaming and seeding on the services they've already completed. They've got some paving to do, and I'm going to try to push them, to get going on Oakland and the paving on everything that they've opened up. I'd like to see them get that done this month, so by end of month, I have a better handle on what the costs are to date. And also related to Oakland, we have notified the customers via a letter, and we'll be letting them know, when we need to connect their service up to the temporary mains. Eureka generator, no updates on that. It's supposed to be delivered, I think, by mid-October. For Briarcliff, the pad has been installed, and I believe they'll be setting the generator this week, and the electrician is scheduled for doing their work next week. So we're getting much closer to getting the Briarcliff generator completed. And last item is the design work on 2021 water mains is ongoing with Wright Pierce. And that's all I got.
Okay, any other questions for Tom? And hearing none, thank you, Tom. Final thing is Kelly's report. Kelly, what's Lincoln?
Sorry, I got into the meeting late. I had a hard time getting into the Zoom program.
Oh, no worries.
Busy few weeks. When the earth movers did the disconnect of the 4-inch over on Mansfield, at the same time, I had them disconnect a crossover valve that was broken down across from Lindbergh Street. So now instead of having to shut down everything from Fleetwood up to Maple Lane, now they're separated where I can just shut down the 4 and just shut down the 8. Now we can distinguish who's on the 4 and get them flipped over to the 8. We think there's probably, I think we figured about 24, 25 services that have to be done. I'm going to get a hold of a couple contractors and try to put them on that, because the 4-inch, there's one valve controlling it, and it's just get to the system. So that worked out good with earth movers doing the same time when they did the disconnect on the end of the 4. I was informed last week that the outgoing valve at the wells is not holding well. So in the next few months or within this fiscal year, I want to get a new 12-inch insertion valve installed. That would be basically the same thing was done at the railroad tracks. It's not a cheap item. It's probably about 14,000 valve, but it's one of those things that I cannot shut down that line coming out of the wells for any reason. So they would do it as it's live. But that's something, again, that's a valve from back in the 90s. It worked 6 months ago when we were using it. And this past time, Eddie had to shut it down for a short time, and it wasn't holding that well. So it's a crucial valve that needs to be done. So I know what it cost us down for a 10-inch valve down at the railroad station. I think it was about $14,000. I would probably ask the highway to dig it because it's not in the pavement. It's right in the field of the wells. They could open it up. We could plate it or cover it up, and then the next day I could have Farley come in and put in the valve. As for 10 Worcester Street, we finally got that all settled out with that building. I basically, not in so many words, explained to them if they're not going to give us a 2,000-gallon storage tank for the sewer, then they weren't going to tie into our sewer main. So we pretty much cut and dry with that. They've ordered just what we wanted. We wanted a duplex system, 2,000-gallon tank, and some sort of an alarming system. As for the water, they're going to bring a 6-inch line in to a hydrant, and then they're going to step it down to 4, and that's going to be the fire service for that back building. And that was under the direction of the fire marshal. And for domestic, they're going to bring a 2-inch line into a meter pit right at the sidewalk, and then that will feed their building. So it'll be one master meter. Whatever they do within the building is on their dime and their responsibility. So we finally got that sorted out with we were dealing with the contractor, the GC, and the owner. So that's been sorted out. As Tom saying, this morning, we were able to shut down the 16 going through the woods. Actually, the one valve held perfect. We found a blow off deep in the woods at a high point. We ended up having the water off from, I guess it was probably 10 in the morning to maybe about 1 o'clock. So right now, there's no water going up to Chestnut Ridge, but they've got to come back once all their work is done and take the line stop out, and then we'll be flowing back up to Chestnut Ridge for the next couple of months until we don't need to anymore. Stony Hill 1, the firehouse. I've got some issues there. We've spent quite a bit of time up there the past 3-4 weeks. System that I don't want to call them rails, but they're cables, but they slide the pumps up and down to the bottom of the wet well. One of them broke. So we had to have somebody come in and fish the pump out. That's when we realized it was broken. It was just sitting on the bottom of the wet well. So we're running off of one pump now. But I had Blake Equipment come out, went over with them to install new rails. We've done this in 3 or 4 of our stations already, where we put new stainless steel rails in that these pumps go on. And instead of the cable system, we're going to go with 2-inch stainless rails. They have to make some changes on the pumps. The pumps are only 3 years old. There's no issues whatsoever with the pumps. And what we're going to end up doing is we're going to have to put the system on bypass, which is going to mean probably about 4 to 5 vac trucks working while we have this tank pigged off and all the parts changed. So they're expecting for each side, it's going to be 1 day's worth of work for each pump, that is. And then the third day, because we're having a lot of problems with the electrical in there. The electrical's, well, let's see, it's got to be 30 years old, and it's very hard to find parts for anything. So I've got Blake Equipment designing a new control panel. Everything not including the vac trucks is $27,000. So that's going to be the rails, the 2 days of labor, and then the third day to put in a new control panel. Now, if you remember, I was talking end of last year that I wanted to redo the station at Clark Park 2, which is the one out on Trowbridge. But I'm going to put that on the back burner and basically tackle this one because we're in an emergency situation that if we lose the one pump remaining, we're going to be in trouble. The other pump is there, but again, it's in the bottom of the pit. We'd have to fish it out and then switch it over to the other rail system to get it where it needs. So it's I'm basically going to call it an emergency. So we're moving forward. All the parts have been ordered. Talked to yet. I have to figure out what my flow is going to be for an average work day and see how many vac trucks I'm actually going to need to keep that sewage moving down Route 6. Let's see. The last thing is generator issues. The generator at Paul Street, we originally thought it had a bad head gasket, but it appears to be I had the HO Penn come out because they're the CAT dealer. That's a CAT generator. They seem to think that basically it needs a oil cooler. They think that that's causing the issue because we're losing the antifreeze. It's not mixing with the oil that bad, but we're definitely losing the antifreeze. I had it running under a load when the guy was here for 4 hours, and I lost about I think it was about 4 gallons of antifreeze. So it's blowing right out the exhaust system. But other than that, it's basically been a pretty busy month. But I didn't want to wait until this meeting to get parts ordered for Stony Hill 1. I just think that's a priority, and that's got to get moving. I don't know whether even the controls are going to be able to be done at the same time as the rails, but I definitely got 2 days to replace those rails because it's so involved and there's such a heavy flow there. One of my concerns is I may go to Newtown and see how much they can hold back, because when that pump comes on from Newtown down in the hole there, there's a serious flow. So we've got it under control, but it's definitely going to be involved. That I need to say, this new kid we got that came from Blake Equipment, he is excellent. I'm telling you that the PUC made a good choice with him. He's young. He knows how to do these things, whether it's going in and changing over starters or what have you in the electrical panel. We really got an asset there. So, and that's about it. That's what I've got for the past few weeks.
All right. Thank you, Kelly.
Okay.
Any other questions for Kelly? Rick, go ahead.
How about my hydrant replacements?
It's still the same. And you know what, Rich? I took 2 of them. I'm taking 2 of them off the list because 2 of them are going to be part of the 2020 main replacement. Okay. One is behind the municipal center, and the other one is Fleetwood Park. It's a 4-inch hydrant. It's broken, and it's on a 4-inch main. So there's no sense in even doing anything with those.
Is that the one on Worcester and Hoyts Hill? Not Hoyts Hill. Is it Hoyts Hill? No,
Hickok?
not Hoyts Hill.
The one on Hickok?
Hickok.
Yeah, I want to get that one done before paving because that's going to be pretty involved. And I can't find a valve on it. So we're going to have to, I think we're going to have to shut that 12 coming down the hill to get that one done.
All right. And then my other question is for Marty. Any more details on the development on Benedict Road there, that Conley property? You were researching that?
What I was, I let the, if I remember correctly, and I reported this before, we definitely had a caveat on there that warned them that it could be redone later on if they subdivided it. So that's number one. Number two, I did have some conversations with the attorney. He's aware of it now. And the only thing we decided, not really decided, but I think what's going to happen is there's got to be an approval from planning and zoning first before P&Z can say, here's what we're going to do. Because we need to know how many lots are going to be there and what's coming in. So I think, and he understood that too. So supposedly he's told his clients that. So when it is approved, we should be able to move forward, and whatever the board wants to do, you know, if you want to start hitting them for more assessments, you know, you got to remember though too, it's going to change the whole picture of all the assessments for that area too. And thing you got to remember too is that, and I think I brought this up before, is that unlike the rest of the project where basically the town contracted out and everybody paid for it, this is all going to be paid for privately by the developer. So there should be some savings there. So I don't think we can get away with charging the same thing that was charged before.
Okay, well, that's something we need to discuss, what kind of numbers we're thinking about. So I don't know who that's going to fall on, you or Tom, and bring it to the whole committee with a proposal on that. But like you say, we have to see how many lots they're going to get first.
Yeah, once I find out how many lots, then we can start running numbers and doing whatever you want to do, so.
All right, as long as they're aware of it.
Marty, was the latest, you're talking 29 Benedict, is that the address?
No,
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
no, wait a minute, it could be. What it is a piece of property that's on Benedict, but it goes back to Colonial Drive, and they're talking about expanding a part of Colonial Drive too. I think you're gonna end up with 1 or 2 lots on directly on Benedict, and 3 or 4 lots off of Colonial in the back.
Okay,
So coming in 2 different ways. Well, they're definitely going to have to extend Colonial Drive's sewer lines and stuff, I believe.
okay. I thought that's what I saw initially, with a sewer line being connected down through onto the Colonial Drive sewer. And I
Right.
thought the most recent one I saw was a revision, and check with Beth, as far as what's the most up to date. I thought it was 4 lots all fronting on Benedict. Without tying into Colonial. I may not have the most up-to-date info, though.
The only way that could happen, I'm familiar with the property. The only way that could happen is if I haven't seen it, is if they went ahead and they decided to put rear lots in.
That's the plan that I saw, but again,
Okay.
I don't know if that's what's now being, going through the system at this point. But
All
that's
right,
the plan.
I'll try to find out.
It was 4 lots, 2 of them being rear lots. And I think there's already a sewer lateral going, an extra lateral was put in for one of the lots.
Yeah.
That's what I know of at the last, but I don't know if that's the most current.
All right, I'll speak to Beth and try to find out what they're doing.
And then the only other thing I'll mention is I wasn't quite sure how the assessments all work. And I had my conversation with Ann, who does the assessments. And I think according to her, you can't take on any more assessment, whatever, it's got to cover the cost. And I don't know that you can, assess more money. So I'm not sure of that. That might be something else to check into. And you may know the answer to that already, Marty.
Oh, if I did, I'd be someplace else if you want to know the truth.
We did something like this up on Weed with the two properties up there, right?
Well, we did it with McNichol, that was on Benedict as well.
On Benedict, yeah.
Yeah, there was, we broke that, but that was only 2 lots, so we went 1 to 2,
And then Ellis and his brother.
yeah, and we did it right, that was off of Weed, you're right, you're absolutely right. We did that at Weed too. I think, first off, to be quite honest with you, Tom, I appreciate Ann's comments, but Ann's got nothing to do with it. She's going to collect whatever she's told to collect, to be quite honest with you.
Okay.
And I think if anybody's got more say over it, it's going to be Bob. Bob's the one that has to deal with it and worked out things before, so I think that's the way it's going to end up being.
No problem.
Okay, great. Anything else? Any other questions for Tom?
Just one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tom, if you could just keep after earth movers, I feel earth movers have slowed down a bit. They should have been over on Oakland Heights a while ago.
I don't disagree, Rich. I was happy to see them out there today, and I'm hoping now they're on here to finish it now, once and for all.
Yeah, all right.
I think once they get going, I don't think they're gonna pause,
Yeah, I understand, but yeah, they've been a pause. I know they were busy over the school system there, over the schools, but
Right.
there's, they shouldn't be taking work if they can't do it.
I understand. I've been in touch with them a few times trying to chase them down, so I was happy to see them there today.
All right.
Right, very good. Anything else? I think that's it. So thank you very much. Thank you, Kathy, for setting everything up. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by
So moved.
Rich, second by Paul. Those in favor?
Aye.
That carries. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you. Good night.
Take care.
Yeah.